Those industries which have their origin in individual creativity, skill and talent, and which have a potential for wealth. This is how the Department for Culture, Media and Sport defines the creative industries. The term creative industries encompasses a large group of businesses, organisations and individuals, including those that work in architecture, advertising, film, and even in IT and computer or software services. Data from 2023 to 2024 shows that the creative industries provided over 2 million jobs, which is 7% of all UK jobs. IT, software and computing services are the largest subsector of the creative industries and generated 40% of the UK's creative industries economic output that totalled at £124 billion in 2023. Within these creative industries are costume designers. Fashion and costume designers face similar problems with ethics and sustainability. They share skill sets and can end up with similar jobs or even working alongside one another. But there are distinctions between these two industries. Fashion designers have labels and sell their clothes, while costume designers have no labels and are focused on creating authentic characters in a story. Working in the wardrobe department for theatre and TV is a common career path as a costume designer, although self-employment and freelance work is also popular. Even if you do find yourself in long-term employment with a production company, you'll likely be jumping between different productions quite frequently. With work weeks being over 40 hours, including working late into the evening and throughout the weekends, work as a costume designer can be intensive. The majority of people who work in costume design are women, and in comparison to production designers who create the sets and are predominantly male, costume designers are paid 30% less, typically making £25,000 to £45,000 per year. This highlights the sexism and gender pay gap that exists within these sectors of the creative industries. Sustainability has become quite the buzzword in recent years, with brands and organisations bragging about the steps that they're taking towards achieving it. But is it enough, and are they really doing what they say that they're doing? It's complicated. Sustainability's current definition is meeting the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. But some people would say that sustainability actually means to be capable of enduring, that the alternative to sustainability is to simply be unsustainable. There is no more or less. Some people suggest that the word has become so corrupted that it is meaningless. The corruption of this word is especially evident across high street brands such as Primark and H&M. But with extreme overproduction of low-quality clothing, catastrophic carbon footprints and unethical working conditions, is adding a green label claiming that they care really good enough. So many garments are not made to be worn for any longer than they are trendy. This means that even when clothing is made to a higher quality, it might be a matter of months before it's discarded. Whilst these problems relating to sustainability are examples from the fashion industry, costume designers do face similar problems. 7 million Halloween costumes in the UK are worn just once before being discarded, and 83% of those costumes are made of non-recyclable materials. This creates 2,000 tonnes of waste each year that ends up in landfills, rivers and oceans, where they slowly leak toxins into water streams, disrupt wildlife, and disturb the people who live in the places where rubbish is so casually dumped. Sustainability is not a new idea. Whilst many people associate it with radical politics and alternative lifestyles, people practice elements of sustainability all the time without even realising. Some classic Halloween costumes, like robots made from cardboard and bedsheet ghosts, can be sustainable, along with using clothes that you already own or that you buy second-hand, so long as you don't also throw away the clothes that you just bought second-hand. But with the rise of cheap character costumes and micro-trends that encourage wearing these costumes for only one night before tossing them in the bin, people are led away from making sustainable choices for the sake of affordability and convenience. There are many different ways that you can be a costume designer, and this can make it hard to pinpoint exactly what needs to change within the industry. But there are people out there that want to make a change. The UK Centre for Carnival Arts addresses some of these concerns by saying that returning to traditional and older methods of carnival costume and float making, such as willow lantern making and paper mache using natural materials, presents significant environmental benefits. Whether it's in film or TV, on the stage, at a friend's party, or during Halloween, costumes are not always designed in appropriate ways. Many Morris dancers, for example, paint their faces black, saying that it's a tradition that stems back to the need to conceal their identities. But some ask, if it isn't racially motivated, then why not change to a potentially less offensive colour? And some dancers have changed the way they paint their face. This response to people's concerns comes from a sense of responsibility and understanding of the influence that they have as people who put art out into the world. Teen Vogue published a video to YouTube where 6 women discuss what cultural appropriation feels like to them. This video is not without controversy. Many of the comments say that they do not agree that the examples shown in the video are offensive. One comment reads, "I'm Indian and I also disagree. How will it affect me if you'll wear a sari?" Despite reaching an audience of people who predominantly disagreed, it created a conversation centered around the people affected by the problems instead of speaking for them. This is especially important given the influence that Vogue has. Many costume designers have their work's likeness used to generate profits without consent or financial compensation. This issue becomes complicated even further when you consider that costume design is a field dominated by women. Jenny Bevan is a prime example of this. Bevan created many iconic looks for 2021's Cruella film. Although aware of initial conversations, Bevan was shocked to find that Disney and the company Rag & Bone released a full collection inspired by her works without further consultation or payment. This led to a wider discussion about how the industry treats their designers. Mona May, who designed Amy Adams' blue dress for the Enchanted film, expressed frustration and disappointment with the experiences too, after seeing many replicas of her design being sold without any credit or payment. We basically sign our life away when we sign a contract, and there is no way around it. Design rights protect the overall image of the product, whereas copyright offers more safety for the artist and the ideas behind the creation. Many costumes and garments aren't eligible for copyright and instead turn to design rights. You can see companies work around copyright laws frequently. If you go to a shop around Halloween to find, say, a Harry Potter costume, you may realise quickly that the robe sold doesn't actually have the Gryffindor logo on it. Even though it's legal, should it really be happening? Fashion, costumes, and most things out there go through different phases or trends, and these cycles are affected by the social climate, political changes, and other things that may seem irrelevant. Productions from the 70s look visibly different to those that are made today, and not just because of the camera quality. The revival of vintage 80s and Y2K fashion has made its way back into film and TV. And it makes sense. Many people are tired of the grungy, dark look of films. Many costumes now try to be more colourful and bold. An example of this is Emerald Fennell's Wuthering Heights film. Despite being heavily critiqued for historical and plotline inaccuracies, many people loved how bold the costumes were. The people who predict and advise on upcoming trends are called trend forecasters. Every creative discipline has niches. They're highly specialised parts of the industry often aimed at specific audiences rather than the wider public. An example within the costume industry is historical costuming. People working in this niche will have a specialised understanding of designing and making these garments. Bernadette Banner, for example, who documents her work on YouTube, specialises in garments made from 1890 to 1914. Many people and companies value this specialist work and are often prepared to spend a lot of money on the products that come out of it. But unfortunately, there are some niches and specialist crafts that are so specific, it can be hard to realistically make money from it and keep the community alive. There are many different ways to work as a costume designer. Musicians, drag queens, street performers, video game characters, and even the Muppets wear costumes, designed and made by someone. Keeping that in mind, let's look at some important figures across costume design. Whilst he was primarily considered a fashion designer, Kansai Yamamoto certainly has work that falls into the costume design category, especially the designs that he made for David Bowie's Aladdin Sane. The costumes that Yamamoto created for Bowie were eccentric, loud, instantly recognisable, and sometimes controversial, especially given how they explored androgyny. His work still inspires leading fashion brands like Gucci and Valentino. Lee Barry was also an incredibly influential figure. His work reflected his bold personality and queer lifestyle in ways that existed beyond labels. He challenged gender and sexuality stereotypes, and his influence enormously changed drag scenes and other alternative creative spaces. His artworks and costumes embodied an extravagant and outrageous personality that many people still find inspiration and comfort in. Let's look at a slightly different interpretation of costume design by looking at those who illustrate characters and costume for film, such as Christopher Anker, who worked on the animated Spider-Man films that enormously changed the way that animated characters appear on screen. Whilst working on set for film, TV and theatre is common, it's not the only career path as a costume designer. Many productions use rented wardrobes, or at least have a few specific pieces on loan from a costume company. Angel's Costumes are among the better known and well-established companies out there. They provided wardrobes for award-winning media such as the Grand Budapest Hotel, but they do also rent to the public. Their collection is made up of some second-hand clothing, altered clothing, historical garments, and handmade pieces. As a costume designer, you could find yourself working for a company like Angel's, making and repairing garments and designing wardrobes for people in shows, working full-time in just one place. But many costume designers have portfolio careers, where they work multiple jobs throughout their life. Some will predominantly work non-creative jobs to help stabilise finances whilst they pick up other creative jobs throughout the rest of the year. This could look like working as a character illustrator and designer for a month, in the coming months working as a costume maker for a theatre production, and then working as a wardrobe assistant at the end of the year. And as theatre productions and other performances tour around the country or even the world, a lot of costume designers can find themselves travelling too.